Connie Tucker is running a crime syndicate, and nobody is talking about it. I'm serious. This isn't some reach where I'm twisting a throwaway joke into a conspiracy. I went through actual federal statutes, the Texas Penal Code, real sentencing guidelines, and when you match them up against what this woman does on screen across 7 seasons, she's looking at over 50 years in prison, combined. Welcome back to Cooper's Couch, and today we need to talk about the fact that the most beloved grandmother in sitcom history is, legally speaking, a career criminal who got off easy. Now here's what everyone thinks about Meemaw. She's the cool grandma, she drinks beer, she plays poker, she doesn't take crap from anybody. She's got that sharp Texas wit, she adores Sheldon, and she's basically the character everyone wishes their grandma was. That's the version of Connie Tucker the show sells you. But here's what I realized when I actually started paying attention, not to the jokes, but to the actions. Because the show plays all of this for laughs. It's background comedy. It's classic Meemaw. But strip away the laugh track and the Annie Potts charm, and what you're left with is a woman who builds an illegal gambling empire, launders money through shell businesses, bribes police officers, smuggles contraband across an international border with her teenage grandson in the car, and when the cops finally show up, tries to run, while holding her great-grandbaby. And I haven't even gotten to the blackmail yet. So let me break this down, because the deeper I went into this, the worse it got. And I organized this in a specific way, the thing that blew my mind the most. I'm saving that. You'll know it when we get there. Let's start with the money laundering, because I think this is the part most people completely overlook. So in season 5, Connie buys Medford Wash a laundromat. And yeah, on the surface, it looks like a quirky retirement project. But the only reason she buys it is because the previous owner, Chet, had been running illegal slot machines in the back room. And Connie was tired of losing her money to his house. So she literally just buys the house. She becomes the house. Here's the thing though, a laundromat is the single most classic money laundering front in the history of organized crime. That's not me being dramatic, that's literally where the term money laundering comes from. Cash-heavy businesses with coin-operated machines where nobody can verify how many actual customers walked through the door. It's perfect. And Connie doesn't just stumble into this, she renovates the back room. Red carpet, a bar, ergonomic chairs so the gamblers stay longer. This isn't a hobby, this is infrastructure. And when the cash starts pouring in, and it pours, she doesn't put it in a bank. She can't. Because as she tells Dale point blank, the IRS would immediately want to know where an elderly widow suddenly got tens of thousands of dollars. So instead, she keeps $14,000 in a suitcase. Just sitting in a suitcase. And then she buys a bright yellow Mazda Miata with cash. Dale even jokes that the tax office would sooner believe she earned the money stripping than legitimately. Now here's what makes this a federal crime, not just a sitcom bit. Under the Money Laundering Control Act of 1986, and this is 18 U.S.C. section 1956 for anyone keeping score, if you conduct a financial transaction knowing that the money comes from illegal activity, and you're doing it to keep that illegal activity going, that's a felony. Each transaction is its own separate count. Each time she moves cash from the back room into the laundromat's register, each time she pays her roulette dealer out of the shadow fund, each time she buys equipment for the casino, that's another count. 20 years per count. Maximum fine of $500,000 per count. And then she goes and buys a video rental store in season 6, Video Village. And it's sold to us as this funny subplot about Meemaw getting into the movie business. But the actual function of Video Village is to give people a reason to walk in and out of the building all day without anyone getting suspicious about the constant foot traffic heading toward the back room where the slots and roulette wheel are running around the clock. That's textbook layering, placement, layering, integration, the 3 stages of money laundering. She hit all 3. A criminology professor could teach a semester off this woman's business model. And I want to pause here for a second because I think the genius of what the show does is it introduces each piece so gradually that you never feel the weight of it accumulating. Season 5, episode 4, she buys the laundromat. A few episodes later, she's got Georgie running the night shift. A few episodes after that, she's got a suitcase full of cash. By episode 16, she's buying sports cars. Each step is a cute little subplot. But zoom out and you're watching someone build a money laundering pipeline in real time. And nobody in the audience blinks. Oh, and I almost forgot the Bank Secrecy Act of 1970 requires banks to file currency transaction reports for any deposit over $10,000. Connie knew that. That's why the suitcase existed. That's why the Miata existed. She wasn't being quirky, she was structuring her finances to stay below federal reporting thresholds. That's a crime too, by the way. It's called structuring and it's independently prosecutable. She was dodging triggers that exist specifically to catch people doing exactly what she was doing. But if the money laundering didn't shock you, and honestly, it should have then let me tell you what actually made my jaw drop, because this next part changes how you see this character completely. Connie Tucker systematically turned her own grandson into a criminal. And I don't mean she was a bad influence, I mean she recruited him. Georgie Cooper is a minor when Connie hires him to run the night shift at her illegal casino. Let that sink in. A 17-year-old kid managing an unlicensed gambling operation where adults are drinking, betting cash, and breaking state law. And Connie doesn't do this because she has no other options. She does it because Georgie is family, which means he won't talk, and because if anything goes sideways, a juvenile might catch a lighter sentence. And it gets darker, because Georgie, this kid, is actually the one who comes up with the legal loophole that keeps the casino running. He figures out that if the machines pay out tickets instead of cash, and those tickets get exchanged for stuffed animals, and then the stuffed animals get immediately bought back for cash, technically it's an arcade. The show plays this like Georgie's being clever. But what it actually is in legal terms is a minor designing a money laundering scheme for his grandmother's criminal enterprise. But it doesn't stop at the casino. When Connie decides to expand into international smuggling, and yes, I just used the phrase international smuggling to describe a sitcom grandmother, she brings Georgie along for that too. They drive to Mexico together, load up 400 cartons of undeclared cigarettes, and try to sneak them back across the border. 400 cartons. That's 80,000 individual cigarettes. The federal threshold for criminal prosecution under the Contraband Cigarette Trafficking Act is 10,000. She was carrying 8 times the limit. With a teenager in the car, they get caught at the border. They spend the night in a holding cell. They go before a judge in handcuffs. And Connie's reaction to all of this? She doesn't apologize to her grandson for dragging him into a federal crime. She makes a joke. She offers Dale a sexual favor to pay back the bail money. I want to be really specific about the legal stakes here because I think most viewers just saw this as a wacky road trip gone wrong. Under the Contraband Cigarette Trafficking Act, 18 U.S.C. Section 2342, knowingly transporting more than 10,000 cigarettes without proper tax stamps is a federal felony. 5 years in prison, $250,000 fine. And because they were caught at an actual international border crossing, a prosecutor could tack on 18 U.S.C. Section 545 smuggling goods into the United States for another 5 years. That's 10 years of federal prison exposure from one road trip, for both of them. And Georgie is a minor. The show resolves this with a $2,500 fine and a guilty plea. In reality, a federal judge looking at 80,000 undeclared cigarettes being smuggled across the Mexican border by a woman who's already running an unlicensed gambling operation in East Texas would not be handing out slap-on-the-wrist fines. That would be the thread that unravels the entire sweater. Meanwhile, back in Medford, Connie's daughter Mary gets publicly shunned at church because word spread about the arrest. People literally refuse to hold her hand during the prayer circle. Connie's criminal career didn't just put her grandson at legal risk, it socially destroyed her own daughter. And the show breezes right past it. Under Texas law, what Connie did to Georgie falls under contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Texas Family Code section 51.3 defines delinquent conduct as anything that violates a criminal statute punishable by jail time. Organizing illegal gambling, punishable by jail time. Smuggling contraband cigarettes, punishable by jail time. She didn't just bring Georgie along for the ride, she made him a co-conspirator before he was old enough to vote. And this part is really important. It wasn't a one-time lapse in judgment. She did it over and over. Season 1, Episode 5, she uses 9-year-old Sheldon's math skills to place illegal sports bets. She turns a child prodigy into a human calculator for her gambling habit. The show frames it as quality bonding time between grandma and grandson. Adorable, right? Except what's actually happening is an adult exploiting a minor's cognitive abilities to gain an unfair edge in unlicensed sports wagering. She only stops when the predictions stop being accurate, not because she has a moral awakening, because the strategy stopped working. And there's a moment in Season 2, Episode 4 where the IRS is auditing the Cooper family, and George Sr. asks Connie to come clean about some shady financial stuff to Mary. Connie's response? She tells him, and I'm paraphrasing here, "We sink or swim together, George." That's not grandma talk. That's Omer talk. That's a code of silence. She was instilling a never cooperate with authorities mentality before Georgie was even involved in the business. She was laying the groundwork years before the casino existed. In season 3, she takes teenage Georgie on a nighttime revenge mission to egg Dale Ballard's store windows because Dale fired Georgie for stealing from the register. Think about what's happening there. The kid stole money that's a problem, but instead of correcting him, Connie validates the impulse and escalates. She teaches him that when someone crosses you, you retaliate outside the law. She literally took a teenager who was caught stealing and turned him into her accomplice for a vandalism spree. And then a couple of seasons later, she promotes that same kid to casino manager. The pipeline is right there. This is a pattern. She identifies what family members are useful for, and she deploys them. That is not grandma behavior, that's recruitment. Now, I want to talk about something that the show actually does address, but frames in a way that completely buries how serious it is. The police corruption. When Connie first opens the backroom casino in season 5, it gets raided almost immediately. Officer Jake shows up, and you'd think, okay, that's it, she's done. But Jake doesn't arrest her, and the reason is genuinely insane. He tells her that normally the cops look the other way on small-time gambling operations. But right now he's running for sheriff and he needs the optics of a bust. It's a publicity stunt. Once the election cycle is over, he basically implies she can reopen. But here's the detail that matters. Connie doesn't just benefit from a corrupt system, she actively participates in it. She pays bribes, regular, ongoing cash payments to Officer Jake, and possibly others to keep the police from raiding her operation. This isn't speculation. The show depicts it. Under Texas Penal Code Section 36, 2. Bribery of a public official is a second-degree felony. That's 2 to 20 years in state prison per incident. And the law is crystal clear. It does not matter if the officer was the one who initiated the arrangement. It doesn't matter if Jake was basically shaking her down. Both sides of a bribery transaction are criminally liable. Every single monthly payment is a separate felony charge. If she paid him for even 1 year, that's 12 counts. At 20 years max per count. The math gets horrifying fast, and here's the irony the show doesn't really underline. Jake eventually does raid her for real, not because he suddenly grew a conscience, but because it became politically convenient again. He used her when it suited him and threw her under the bus when that suited him too. And Connie can't expose him without admitting she was the one paying the bribes. She trapped herself. What kills me is that the show treats the whole corrupt cop dynamic like a sitcom inconvenience. Like Jake is just this annoying guy who keeps showing up. But in real life, this is how organized crime actually works. You pay the local cops, they look the other way, and everything runs smooth until someone decides you're more valuable as a headline than as a revenue stream. Connie was living the exact same life cycle as real-world gambling operations that the FBI spent decades dismantling, except she was doing it in East Texas with a laundromat and a video store instead of a nightclub. Okay, I need to talk about the blackmail, because this is the moment I realized the show had turned Meemaw into a full-on crime boss and just never acknowledged it. So in season 6, Connie buys Video Village as her second front business, and the local Baptist church led by Pastor Jeff starts a boycott campaign. They're picketing outside, telling people the store rents morally corrupt movies, the whole thing. And Georgie, who at this point has more street smarts than half the adults in Medford, tells Connie to back off. He says drawing attention from the church could lead to people poking around and discovering the backroom operation. Does Connie listen? Of course not. Instead, she and Mandy dig through the video store's customer rental database. They pull up the rental history of Pastor Jeff's wife, and of the church elders who were leading the boycott. Turns out, these same people who were publicly crusading against sinful movies were privately renting exactly those movies, the raciest titles in the catalog. Connie takes this information directly to Pastor Jeff and threatens to expose all of it to the congregation. The boycott ends the next day. That is textbook extortion. That's blackmail. Under Texas law, that's a criminal offense. She accessed confidential customer data without authorization, used it to identify compromising personal information, and leveraged that information to coerce someone into stopping lawful activity. And she did it to protect an illegal gambling operation. I mean, think about what just happened there. A grandmother just blackmailed a pastor to protect her underground casino. And the show frames it like a victory, like she outsmarted the church people, like we should be cheering, but in reality she just added another felony to a rap sheet that was already novel length. She accessed private data, weaponized it, and used it to silence a legitimate public protest. That's not SAS. That's organized crime methodology. All right. So let's put this all together, because I think the full picture is something the show never wants you to see all at once. When the SWAT team finally raids the casino in season 7, and yeah, it's SWAT. Not just regular cops, Connie's first instinct is to run. She literally bolts for the back door. She doesn't secure her great-granddaughter Tsitsi first. She doesn't surrender peacefully. She runs. That's evading arrest. That's another charge. She gets caught, gets arrested, spends the weekend in jail because the judge is literally on a fishing trip. And when the dust settles, the court does what the court was always going to do. They apply civil asset forfeiture. They take everything. The laundromat, the video store, the cash, the equipment, all of it, gone. And this is something most people don't understand about civil asset forfeiture in the US. The government doesn't even need to convict you first. They just need probable cause that the property was connected to criminal activity. And when your laundromat's back room is literally a casino with a roulette wheel and slot machines, that's not a tough case to make. The legal standard is laughably low compared to what Connie was operating. And the show plays this as a tragedy. Poor Meemaw lost her businesses. But those businesses were crime fronts. The government took them because they were purchased with illegal money and used to facilitate illegal activity. That's not a tragedy. That's consequences. She gets house arrest with an ankle monitor. She can't leave her property by more than 50 yards. And Sheldon's sweet, brilliant Sheldon starts frantically studying law to try to defend her. And the cases he's reading, he's citing Vincent the Chin Gigante. He's studying mob boss defense strategies for his grandmother, because his grandmother's legal situation is comparable to a mob boss's. And the absolute kicker? After all of this, the arrest, the forfeiture, the ankle bracelet, the community service under the supervision of an officer played by Octavia Spencer, Connie Tucker, does not stop. Data from the spin-off show, Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage, confirms that she goes right back to illegal bookmaking. She's taking bets on high school football games. She's pumping a coach for inside information. She's recruited Mandy into the operation by giving her a pager to log bets. She learned nothing. She lost everything and went right back to it. In criminology, there's a term for this: incorrigible recidivism. The American justice system spent time, money, and resources to arrest this woman, confiscate her assets, put a tracker on her ankle, assign her a probation officer, sentence her to hundreds of hours of community service at her own daughter's church, and the moment the heat died down, she was right back at it, taking bets through a pager, in the 21st century. And here's the detail that really got me when I was researching this. She even tried to corrupt her probation process. She sent George Sr. to her probation officer to sweet-talk the terms down, to try to get lighter community service hours. And the probation officer, in what might be the most realistic scene in the whole show, responded by making her workload heavier, because that's what happens when you try to game the system while you're already being punished by the system. So let me just run through the final numbers, because I think hearing them all at once is what really drives this home. Texas Penal Code Section 47, 3 promoting gambling, Class A misdemeanor, up to 1 year. Texas Penal Code Section 47, 4 keeping a gambling place, Class A misdemeanor, another year, 18 USC. Section 1, 1955, running an illegal gambling business with 5 or more people involved, federal felony, up to 5 years plus a $250,000 fine. Plus they seize everything, 18 USC Section 1956, money laundering, federal felony, up to 20 years per transaction, $500,000 fine, per transaction, 18 USC Section 2342, contraband cigarette trafficking. Those 80,000 cigarettes, federal felony, 5 more years. Texas Penal Code Section 71, 2 engaging in organized criminal activity, Texas's version of RICO. This one automatically bumps every other charge up a level. A misdemeanor becomes a felony. A felony becomes a first-degree felony. And a first-degree felony in Texas carries 5 to 99 years. Or life. Texas Penal Code, Section 36, 2 bribery of a public official, second-degree felony, 2 to 20 years. Per payment, 26 USC Section 7201, federal tax evasion, up to 5 years per tax year she failed to report. Add in the extortion, the contributing to a minor's delinquency, the DWI from season 3 that everyone forgets about, the evading arrest. If a federal prosecutor stacked these charges consecutively and under the Sentencing Reform Act of 1984, there's no parole in the federal system, Connie Tucker is looking at 35 years minimum on federal charges alone. Add in the Texas charges and you're pushing past 50 years. For a woman who's already elderly, that's a life sentence. She would die in prison. And the fines? Over $1 million combined, plus total forfeiture of every asset connected to the operation. Here's what gets me about all of this. The show knows what she's doing is criminal. They literally show her getting arrested, twice. They show the SWAT raid, they show the ankle monitor, they show the asset forfeiture, but they frame all of it through the lens of lovable rogue grandma who's just a little wild. The laugh track does incredibly heavy lifting. But take away Annie Potts, take away the Medford charm, take away the family dinners and the Sheldon hugs. And what do you have? You have a woman who corrupted her own grandchildren, bribed law enforcement, laundered money through multiple front businesses, smuggled contraband across a national border, blackmailed a religious leader, fled from police while abandoning an infant, and, after getting caught and punished, did it all over again. That's not a cool grandma. That's a case file. And honestly, the fact that the show made us root for her the whole time might be the most impressive con of all, because Connie Tucker didn't just fool the people of Medford, she fooled us too.